It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Tuesday. We have a lot to talk about, lots to get into. A big show. It's actually another slow day again. But we got a good show. And our featured story, we're talking tonight all about Trump's epic go-off on Somalia in the White House today. It was good. Just like the post on Truth Social, it was pretty awesome, pretty epic. And we'll talk about it. The big news surrounding it, however, is the travel ban. And so all of this seems to be the result of those shootings that took place last week. The two National Guardsmen who were shot just before Thanksgiving. I think also it was catalyzed by Trump's low favorability, maybe collapsing poll numbers. And now all of a sudden we're getting all this new rhetoric and policy on immigration. And I'm sure you've seen it, but earlier today, Trump erupted after he woke up from a nap, it seems. He was sleeping at a meeting of the cabinet, woke up, and then went off on Somalian immigrants. And it was intense. He said their country stinks, and they come here, and all they do is bitch. He said, and we don't want them here. He said, we don't want them here. And it was pretty epic. And then later in the day, it was announced that there will be a new travel ban. 19 countries are affected. Yes, all 19 of the third world countries. All 19 of them had been put on a list, and all of them from Togo to the Republic of Congo to Equatorial Guinea to Turkmenistan, they're all on the list. Yes, all of those ones that are sending all the immigrants here. And that means that there's going to be no more visas, green cards, asylum applications from those countries. And the administration is exploring other ways to limit immigration from those places too. And it looks good. So far, so good. So we'll talk about it tonight. Should be a pretty good show. We'll get into the rant. We'll talk about the travel ban. And it'll be good stuff. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button, smash the like button, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. It's already been a long day. It's been a big day for content. If you've been following Fuentes Updates, I've actually released 3 shows today already. I was on InfoWars with Alex Jones at 1 o'clock. I did 2 hours on his show. So if you caught that live, I think we're going to upload it to the Rumble channel as well. But we covered a lot of topics today. And then at the same time, my second interview with Bradley Martin debuted on YouTube. So that is now available on YouTube if you want to check that out. And then later in the day, my interview with Tommy G also aired. This was all on the same day. And I would have scheduled it better, but I didn't know. I didn't know any of this stuff was coming out today. Nobody told me. That's fine. I don't care. I'm not bothered by it, but maybe we would have spaced them out, but 3 shows and now this show all in the same day. Bradley Martin, Tommy G, Alex Jones, now this show. Thursday, I will be on Steven Crowder in the morning. Monday, Piers Morgan. 2-hour smackdown, 2-hour tables, ladders, and chairs, falls count anywhere. No holds barred. It's going to be an epic battle. Maybe 4 years in the making. So it is a stacked week. And then we have another collaboration next Thursday, my annual stream with Richard Spencer. I think we're doing that on the 11th. So that's a lot. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. And your boy's getting tired. It's too much. It's been a long year. We're bringing it in for a landing. We're bringing it to a close. This has been the longest year of my life, the generational run. 2025, the year of the generational run, nonstop travel, collaborations, interviews, debates. The show, it's too much. So December, we're going out with a bang. We're doing a lot of different things. I'm going to take a break, a couple weeks off. And then we're coming in hot in January, some big collaborations planned in January, and it's off to the races. So that's our schedule. A lot to look forward to. You want to get the merch? Fuentes.store, we have the hats, and we have the Wang Half hoodie. Okay, we have the Wang Half shirt. Now we have the Wang Half hoodie available. It's on sale. We also have a Wang Half flag. So if you've seen that on TikTok, now you can buy it from me and support the movement. We're going to have a brand new merch drop, I believe, on Friday. Very exciting. All new designs. All very cool stuff. Some very explicit, some not so explicit. Some you can wear in mixed company, some that you probably should just wear as like pajamas, unless you're don't mind being canceled. But that'll be on Friday. Remember to subscribe to the website, americafirst.plus. $15 a month. You get a monthly membership, access to the archive, every show I've ever done. $100 a month. You get to be in a group chat with me and talk to me and tag me and annoy me and receive voice messages. That's at americafirst.plus. What else? I think there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, but I totally forgot. Well, whatever. That's fine. So that's that. Before we get into the news, I also just want to say, did you see this tweet from Elon Musk this afternoon? Somebody was talking to him about, I don't know, Jews being attacked and Western civilization. And Elon Musk replies and says, Jews are white. They're actually the peak whites in the world. Peak white. They're the best of the white people. And somebody replies and says, no, that's not true at all. Jews are not white. They don't even see themselves as white. Other people don't see them as white. And Elon replies, well, if you're not blind, you can see that the tone of their skin is light, like white people. And other people consider them white, and so therefore it doesn't matter how people feel about it, whether it's the Jews themselves or others. He said because they look white and genetically they're similar enough, so they're white. And I read stuff like that and I think, so does he just not know, or is he lying? Because those are really the only options. And it is an empirical question. What is whiteness? Well, when we say somebody is white, we don't mean they have light skin. Asians have light skin. You would never say they're white people. They're Asian. Why are they Asian? Because they come from Asia. That's what makes them Asian. And to the extent that they have pale skin and black hair and slanty eyes, that's because they come from that group that is from that region. And so what does it mean to be white? It means to be of Europe, from Europe, European. That's what that means. And maybe it means being Nordic. Maybe it means being from Northern Europe. But more broadly, it means being European. It doesn't just mean having pale skin. And so when somebody says something so ridiculous like, well, they look white to me, so they're European, so they're white. As a matter of fact, they're the best of the Europeans. You have to ask yourself, what is that really? Does he just not know? Or is it a lie? Because like I said, this is information. It's not a matter of opinion. It's not subjective. And people can debate about it. But the simple fact is that they are not European. They don't originate from Europe. Not from the beginning. They don't identify as racially European. And they're also not a part of European civilization. Never have been. For thousands of years, they were expelled, discriminated against, segregated, moved around. And despite living in all the different European nations, like France or England or Spain or Germany or Poland, they always saw themselves as a distinct nation without a territory. So what do you make of that? They're not Polish, they're not German, they're not Italian or French. They always considered themselves fundamentally Jewish. And they were transnational and on some level nomadic, wandering, and considered themselves without an actual homeland. That is until they relocated to Israel, which is actually not located in Europe at all. And they don't have the religion of the Europeans either. The religion of the Europeans is Christianity. Or you could argue paganism, and they're not pagans either. They're monotheistic, and their God is Yahweh. So when Elon says that, you got to wonder, does he not know these things? And I find that hard to believe that he doesn't. So if he's lying about it, you have to wonder why that is. And on some level, this is the difference between me and everybody else, between this movement and every other movement, between us and the liberals. That really seems to be the distinction. It is that Elon and Tucker and the Republicans and the Democrats are fundamentally liberal. And they're not talking about America or Americans as a distinct people with an identity. They're not telling us the story of our people, how we got here, our roots, our heritage, our ancestry, our true identity, which is that we are a race. We are Europeans. People say, you're Mexican. Okay, I have 3 European grandparents, like whatever. Agree, don't agree. Here's the point. Europeans are a distinct people. Christianity is a distinct religion. We have distinct interests as Europeans, as white people. We have distinct interests as Christianity. We're a civilization. Europeans are an ethnic and religious civilization. That's what Europe has always been. It has always been Christendom, or for at least 1700 years, Europe has been Christendom. It has been the expanse of Christians. And on some level, or maybe for the same amount of time, it has been a collection of these white people. It has been these organizations of white people, as the Romans, as the Holy Roman Empire, as the Franks, as whatever. But that is our civilization. That is who we are. And these other people, whether they be the Indians, whether they be Hispanics, Jews, Chinese, they're not us. They're not Europeans. They're not Christians. They don't come from that continent. They don't come from that culture. They don't come from that heritage. They don't share that history. They're not us. They're different, and they have different interests. And to the extent that they're different, they're going to express a different identity. And that's what makes this movement different, is it's fundamentally a movement based on the identity and the story and the collective interests of our people. That's the difference between us and everybody else, because everybody else that wants to insinuate the Jews into this, they're just not understanding that. They're not understanding that distinction, and they're not understanding that historical antagonism either that has always existed between Jews and Europeans on both a racial, a political, and a religious basis. So when I see tweets like that, I can't agree that Elon is based. I can't agree that he's our guy, because it's just unnecessary. Some people say that he's quietly our guy, but he doesn't want to reveal his power level. I don't think that's true at all, because if that were true, there'd be no reason to say these things. There'd be no reason to promulgate this very problematic lie. He just would say nothing. He wouldn't say that, certainly. So I don't know what to make of that. And I don't know what to make of it that whether it's Elon or Tucker or Candace or any of them, they all seem to be pushing this line, which is that Jews are somehow involved in our civilization when we really need to see ourselves as distinct. And it's just hard to get people to wrap their heads around it, because people have been so indoctrinated into liberalism and individualism and moreover, this Judeo-Christian idea. And I'm just waiting and trying to hasten, I'm waiting for and trying to hasten the day when people wake up and realize who we are and who they are. I don't know how much more you need to see. And I think about Josh Hammer and Mark Levin, who each separately tweeted They said Europeans have anti-Semitism in their DNA. Like they hate us. And I see Eric Weinstein flipping off the Arch of Titus. Why do they do these things? Why do they say these things? Why does Mark Levin say Europeans have anti-Semitism in their DNA? That should send up a giant red flag. Because ordinarily, the rhetoric that we hear from conservative, pro-Israel, Republican Jews is that we are a Judeo-Christian civilization. We're inseparable. We're inextricable. Jews and Christians have always been friends since the beginning of time. And we're inseparable because we have so much in common and we're besties. And it's unimaginable that it would be anything other than that. This is how it ordinarily is. They use these terms like Western civilization. They talk about Athens and Jerusalem. And they say that Jews and Christians made the West. The revelation in Jerusalem and the reason from Athens is what made the West. This is what they always talk about. Israel is part of Western civilization. They are on the front line fighting Islamic civilization on behalf of the West. And the West is about the Torah and individualism. Like this is what they're telling us 6 days out of the week. And then one day out of the week, they say something weird like Europeans have anti-Semitism in their DNA. They can't help it. And you go, huh? Well, what happened? I thought we were all Judeo-Christian Westerners. You hear Adam King, the Kabbalist Jew, in our debate with Gavin McInnes. Vince asks him, if you could destroy one religion, would it be Muslim or Catholicism? And the Kabbalistic Jew says, oh, Catholicism, easily. And you go, what? So what happened there? What happened to Judeo-Christian? What happened to Western civilization? What happened to all that? Why now do you say Europeans are your natural biological enemy? Why are you flipping off our arch in Rome? And then you just read through the history. And the history is that the Roman Empire destroyed the temple and expelled the Jews from Israel. And then the Jews were expelled from every country in Europe. They were pushed around, pushed out of France, pushed out of England, pushed out of Spain, out of Portugal, forcibly converted, pushed into Poland, and then segregated in the Pale of Settlement. And then there were pogroms, and they were victims of the Tsar and of anti-Semitism there. And you realize we've actually never been friends. Jews and Christians have never been friends, ever. Not since Jesus Christ fought with the Pharisees have we ever been friends. Not since Saul was leading the charge persecuting the Christians. Not since the Roman Empire, not since the Middle Ages. Never. We've never been friends. We've never been allies. We've always been set against each other, actually. And even here in the United States, it was communist Jews who were the architects of both communism and the civil rights laws that are dispossessing white Christians of their land and civilization. And unless and until people wake up and realize this is the dynamic, this is the theological war you were born into, we're never going to be a free people. It's that simple. It starts with the friend-enemy distinction. And I'm not saying Jews are the enemy, but I'm saying they're not part of the same tribe. And we got to get the groupings right or else we're subverted. So I see this from Elon Musk, and I hear this even from our own guys. They say, with Jews, you win. With Zionists, you win. They think it's funny. They think it's a joke. It's not a joke. They hate us. Joe Lonsdale, Sean McGuire, Bill Ackman, Ronald Lauder, Mark Levin, Randy Fine, Josh Hammer, Ben Shapiro, these people hate us. They couldn't give a fuck about our civilization. They hate Rome. They hate the Catholic Church. They hate the Europeans. They think we have anti-Semitism in our bones. They hate our ancestors. They don't care if our country's flooded with immigrants. They don't care if Europe is flooded with immigrants. As a matter of fact, they want it. It's their punishment. When the Notre Dame Cathedral burned, probably at the hands of Muslims, rabbis were rubbing their hands together and saying it was revenge for the Disputation of Paris. You know that? When the Muslims invade France and they burn the Notre Dame Cathedral to the ground and the steeple falls through the ceiling, Jewish rabbis were rubbing their hands laughing, and they said, this is our revenge for the disputation of Paris. Your cathedral burns like how you burned our Talmud. And Elon Musk says, well, they look white to me, and everyone thinks they're white, so no, they're not part of it. They're not part of European civilization. They're not part of Christian civilization. They need to be kept out of the corridors of power. As long as they are there, we are not in charge. As long as they are there, we have no sovereignty. We're not a free people. We're never going to be able to secure what is best for us. And it's that simple. So anyway, I didn't intend to go off on that tonight, but I saw that tweet and it's like, dude. And then you realize he's part of this weird thing. It's him from South Africa with all these other freaks like Peter Thiel and David Sachs and Joel Pollak, who are also all from South Africa. And they're also all in bed with these Jewish people too. PayPal Mafia. It's Max Levchin. It's David Sachs. It's Lonsdale. It's all these freaks. And they're in the Trump government. And you got, unfortunately, a lot of Zoomers buying into this. Not a lot of them, but some of them, some marginal people. And people need to know what time it is. People need to identify as European, as Christian, as the heirs to Roman civilization, as the heir to the empire, to the imperium. We have to look at ourselves as distinct. Civilizationally, Jews are part of a different civilization completely. They're just not the same. You know, no one would say necessarily that Brazil is a white Western country because they're just a little bit off. And Jews are a lot of bit off. So anyway, I saw that tweet today. I'm thinking, what are we doing here? You're supposed to be the smartest guy in the world. You could Google this. You could ask ChatGPT. You could watch their speeches. And I quote tweeted that on my Twitter timeline with a video with Ben Shapiro saying the same thing. He's getting pressed in a Jubilee video by this black girl. And she says, do you think Jews are white? And he says, well, you know, there's a lot. It's very contentious and there's a lot of debate. She goes, do you think Jews are white? He goes, well, some people say that and some people get... And she's pressing him and he won't say it. And it's like that all the time. They're white when they need to be, and they're not white when they need to be. But they don't identify. But in their heart of hearts, they're not white. They will selectively mimic white people when it is beneficial. So we all know the stereotype when they go on Twitter and they say, as a white person, as a fellow white person, I'm ashamed of my ancestors and I hate whites. And then you go through their timeline and they say, I'm not white, I'm actually Jewish. It's like this happens all the time. Anyway, but I do want to move on. That's just the Elon Musk thing. I want to get into the latest with Trump and with the Somalians. And I got to say, it's just so misguided. And I should have saw this coming. And I think a lot of people will fall for this too. So today, Trump has this epic rant about Somalia all over again. So good, he did it a second time. So we covered this last night. Trump had a major go-off on Somalia on Thanksgiving. He writes this like 5-paragraph screed, a rant about how Somalians are from the third world and non-white people are ruining America and they're taking welfare and white people don't want to complain and we need to get them out. And I told you last night it was an awesome post. It's funny, it's edgy, it's topical, it's true. I loved it. And today he did the same thing all over again. He was in a meeting. He fell asleep during the meeting, which you might have saw. He's literally, and it's so funny because there's a clip from the meeting where he's just going down. You know, it reminds me of when I was in high school or college, when you're in a lecture, you're in class and you didn't sleep and you start falling asleep. And you're trying to stay awake, but you're just going down. And you remember in those days when you would sort of like half like wake yourself up, you'd like your head would start to slump and you'd catch yourself falling. That's literally what happened in the meeting. Marco Rubio's going on, and Trump is going like this. He's like, and it's not even an exaggeration. He's just straight up for the second time in 2 weeks. He's just out in the meeting. And you could see it all over his face. He's like struggling to keep his eyes open. It's kind of endearing, actually. It's kind of funny. And so he rouses himself from his slumber. He's fallen asleep at the meeting. He wakes up just long enough to just go the fuck off on Somalia. He says their country stinks. All they do is bitch. We don't want him here. We're going to get him out. And then he closes the meeting. Then he says, all right, the meeting's over. And if we had 8 years of this, I would honestly not have a problem. This is great stuff. Guy's 100 years old, clocks in for the day, sits down at the meeting, falls asleep, wakes up, goes off on the third world. All right, meeting over. I love it. And this is a story. This is from the New York Times. It says, quote, President Trump unleashed a xenophobic tirade against Somali immigrants on Tuesday, calling them garbage that he does not want in the United States in an outburst that captured the raw nativism that has animated his approach to immigration. At the tail end of a cabinet meeting, he said, quote, these are people that do nothing but complain. He said, when they come from hell and they complain and they do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. He said, Somalia stinks and we don't want him in our country. He described Ilhan Omar, who came to the United States from Somalia as a refugee, as garbage. He said, quote, we could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These are people who work. Or these aren't people who work. These aren't people who say, let's go on. Let's make this place great. On Tuesday, when asked about Mr. Trump appearing to doze off in the cabinet meeting, his press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, pointed to his remarks about Somalis, which she described as a, quote, epic moment. So Trump is asleep in the meeting, wakes up, says, you know, they're all garbage and all they do is bitch and I don't want him here. Okay, the meeting's over. And then the press secretary comes up. They say, so what was that all about? He was falling asleep in the meeting? She goes, no, it was an epic rant. Epic moment, actually. It's entertaining to say the least. There's a reason we call it slop. There is something attractive about it. It is a dopamine hit. It wouldn't be effective slop if it didn't taste good. That's why we call it goy slop, because it tastes good. So this is good stuff. On Thursday, Mr. Trump said Somalis were taking over Minnesota and that Somali gangs were roving the streets looking for prey. He said Miss Omar was always wrapped in her swaddling hijab and that Mr. Walsh was seriously retarded for welcoming immigrants from Somalia. So I see the statement, and once again, it's great rhetoric. It's all-time. This is an all-time rant. A late entry. And I have to say, he still got it in many ways. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm very unhappy with the state of the Trump administration. This is reflected in his favorability ratings, his job approval, generic ballot for the midterms. We're not happy with where things are. That being said, he is great when he wants to be at telling us what we want to hear. And that's exactly how I would describe it. He is excellent, masterclass at telling us what we want to hear. Funny, raw, brash. No one does it like him. Not J.D. Vance, not DeSantis, nobody. Not even me, although maybe me. Not Tucker, certainly. Like this guy, that is an epic moment. That is an epic go-off because he's saying what we're all thinking. Return to form. Refreshing, isn't it? That was his entire appeal in 2016, is that he tells it like it is. He says what we're all thinking. And it's not politically correct and it is offensive, but he's plain spoken and he talks and sounds like we do. And he's echoing the concerns of the forgotten men and women. And this is how the people are. This is how the people talk. That was the appeal in 16. And then he sort of stopped doing that for 10 years. He started talking about the radical left and the Democrats and all this other crap. And seeing a statement like this, it reminds you why we like Trump to begin with. And first, it's the form, which is, like I said, the plain spokenness. But second, it's the content. It's the substance. It's immigration. That was the formula that won Trump the election the first time. He talks like us, and what is he talking about? Immigration. That's the thing. That's the thing that political correctness was built to suppress, basically, among other things. But it was built up to suppress criticism of non-white people and of white genocide. That is really what political correctness is all about. Now, over time, it expanded into women and gays and trannies and everybody. But in broad strokes, it was about not being able to criticize black behavior or immigrants or immigration or non-white people as a whole. And so when Trump came down the escalator in 2016 and said, look, we need to build a wall and keep these people out. They're a problem. Everybody said, finally, that's what we're thinking. And that's how we talk. And that's what we're saying. And that's what we want for our country. That was the winning formula. And it delivered Trump the election. But then, like I said, for the past 10 years, we have not gotten that. We've gotten something else. And what we're getting is stapling green cards to diplomas. Last week, in an interview, Trump goes out and says Americans don't have talent. He says, we need the people. We need them. We need Korean engineers. We need Indian programmers. We need the Chinese to come to our universities. Remember that? How quickly people forget. 2 weeks ago, we have arguably the worst interview I think I've ever heard from Trump. It's like he did a complete 180. And he's saying if we don't bring in 600,000 Chinese students, then the universities will collapse. Okay, good. Knock out two birds with one stone. Bankrupt the left-wing universities, keep the Chinese spies out. Isn't that a win-win? Then he goes further. They say, well, how are you America first on immigration when you're bringing in 120,000 H-1B visas? And Trump says, well, we need the talent. She goes, Americans have talent. He goes, no, they don't. They don't have the talent. You think we can pick someone out of an unemployment line and get them to build a missile? So he's telling us the opposite. If the message in 2016 was, we don't want immigrants, they suck. Now the message is, we need immigrants, they're better than us. It's an inversion. In 2016, we're going to build a wall. They're bringing drugs, crime, they're rapists, they have problems, they're bringing the problems with us. Americans have dreams too. Remember? And 2 weeks ago, how quickly everybody forgets, he says, no, we need immigrants. We need immigrants because America's a business. We need immigrants. We need their money to support our universities, and we need their skills because we don't have any skills, and our people are useless. Total inversion. And I believe that what has happened is that Trump's poll numbers are in the tanks. He is unpopular, or poll numbers are tanking, I should say. He is deeply unpopular, and he knows that. His own base is in revolt. Among MAGA supporters, even, he's losing support. Self-identified MAGA coalition in the GOP. Marjorie Greene has resigned from Congress. And so I think it is code red in the White House. They realize that they're heading into the midterms and probably they're going to get destroyed. And that's because they've alienated their own voters, their own base. And so what does Trump do? He unleashes the nativist, xenophobic speech on Thanksgiving, and it was received very well. So what does he do? He comes back for seconds, comes back for more. And so today in the meeting, he lets it rip, the same speech. Somalians are terrible. They stink and they're garbage, and people eat it up. And it's like I said last night, it's a continuation of what we were talking about yesterday. You can be happy that he said this, and I find it pleasing. I'm glad he said it. It feels good. It's funny. It's true. Is it maybe a meta-political victory to the extent that those are real? I guess that's what this is. But what does it tell us about Trump? It tells us that like he has this in his belly. He still does. He always has. It's like I told you last night. He knows exactly what we want to be told. He knows exactly, therefore, what we want. So what was going on 2 weeks ago when he said we have no talent and we need the Chinese students? What is happening is that we have been compromised. We are being deliberately screwed over. If he knows the whole time that what we want is nativism, but for the past year and a half, he's been giving us everything other than that, what does it tell you? It means he knows that we have a stomach. We have the patience. We're idiots. And so he knows that he can avoid pandering to us. He doesn't need to appease us. He doesn't need to give us concessions. We'll support him anyway. We'll vote for him, and we will defend him, and we will support him. He doesn't need to do or say the things that we want. Why? Why does he make this calculation? Because if he knows that he doesn't need to pander to us and we'll support him anyway, then he can go and tell the donors what they want to hear. And he can go on the All In podcast in Silicon Valley and he can tell them, we're going to staple green cards to diplomas and we need the immigration and we need the workers. And he can deliver on that. And he can have his cake and eat it too. He can give the donors a pro-immigration policy because he knows that his anti-immigration base will support him no matter what. He knows what we want. He knows what we want to hear. He knows what policies we want, but he won't give it to us. He hasn't given it to us for years. He wouldn't talk like this, wouldn't gesture towards this, wouldn't deliver on this because he didn't need to. And that afforded him, it's fungible. The support is fungible. So he takes that political capital, that support that he's getting from his base, and he uses that to go and pander to the donors who will then give him money. And then he enjoys the support and the money for the maximum political position, for the maximal political posture. And I told you that last year. I said last year we need to be loud and vocal and we need to tell Trump that what we want is an immigration moratorium and we're not happy with him and we're not going to vote until we get it. And people said, shut up. Don't say that. We need all hands on deck. We need everybody to vote. And that's exactly what Trump did. He knew he didn't need to pander because people are going to vote no matter what. What he needed was the money, and that was contingent. Well, what happened? Trump got elected. The administration's a disaster. The people are in revolt. And guess what? Wouldn't you know it? Now that there is so much negativity, now that the Groypers have won, now that the Groypers have split the party in half intentionally, now that the Groypers have created a civil war and generated a lot of negativity against the president through our incessant blackpilling and complaining, what does Trump do? Oh, now he delivers. Yes, now that he's threatened with losing support from the base, now that he's threatened with a fissure in the party, now he's going to give us what we actually want, which is rhetoric like this and policy like this. It's almost like I was right the entire time. It's almost like all that positivity and coping and plan trusting was having the opposite of the intended effect. It was affording Trump the political maneuverability to screw over the base as much as possible because you would tolerate it. If you tell the president that you will tolerate and excuse everything and anything, if you tell him that he will get away with everything and anything, then he will. He will get away with it. He will try to get away with as much as he can. He's not going to do things for the base out of a sense of integrity or honor. That's not how politics works. If he can get the support without doing anything, he'll take it for free with both hands. And then he'll go and use political capital to pander to donors to get the money. And he'll be a happy camper because now he has got a sweet deal. He can deliver for the donors and get the money, and he can screw over the voters and still get their votes. It's a beautiful arrangement for him. Very beneficial, very comfortable, and very easy. But I told you last year, I said, this is why we need to be negative. This is why we need to threaten to withhold our support. This is why we need to make it unignorable and visible, because if we do, then Trump will be forced to pander to us. And he knows how to do it. Nobody's better than him. We just need to create the need, the impetus for it. And now that that has happened, like clockwork, what does Trump do? He dusts off the old playbook and we get Trump 2016 all over again. You're welcome. I'll never get any credit for it, but you are welcome for giving you Trump 2016 back. And by the way, does anybody doubt that the only reason we're getting this is because he's unpopular? Does anybody doubt that for even 1 second? This administration's been a nonstop disaster, one catastrophe after the next. All of a sudden, now you're getting this newfound Trump 2016 rhetoric. Timing's amazing. Right on the heels of off your election losses, the Tucker Carlson Civil War, and all the discontent in the party. Now we're getting Trump 2016. You're welcome. How do you get the politicians to do what you want them to do? Threaten to withhold support. Critique them, attack them, do it from the right. It doesn't matter if you do it from the left. The left is already the enemy. Do it from inside. Do it from within the right wing. That's what they're worried about. And that's the model. Look at how we got Trump to cave in such a short amount of time. And look at how beautifully he delivered. Look at how beautifully he understood the assignment completely. He comes out and says, all these brown people do is bitch in their hijabs and they're ungrateful and they stink and we don't want them here. I mean, it couldn't be better if you dreamed it up. This is out of the wildest imagination of the most obsequious plan truster, and it was delivered to us on a silver platter because we threatened to withhold our support because we said we don't like Trump anymore. And now this is what we get. It's a desperate bid to get our support back. And he knows what to do. He always has. We just need to give him a reason to play that out. So he goes on this big rant about Somalians, and then he couples that with the new travel ban. This is a story from the New York Times. He put 19 countries on a new travel ban. He's suspending visa applications and green cards and asylum applications from these nearly 20 countries. This is a story from the New York Times. It says, quote, the Trump administration has paused immigration applications filed by immigrants from 19 countries it restricted from travel to the United States earlier this year, halting green card and U.S. citizenship processing for broad swaths of people, according to agency officials. The pause applies to people from Iran, Sudan, Eritrea, Haiti, Somalia, and others banned by Mr. Trump in June, who are seeking status from U.S. citizenship and immigration services. The list includes some of the poorest and most unstable nations in the world, such as Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Libya, Myanmar, Eritrea, Cuba, Haiti, Chad, Sudan, Yemen, Laos, Somalia, Venezuela, Sierra Leone, Togo, Burundi, Republic of Congo, and Equatorial Guinea. The move deepens the remarkable crackdown on immigration after a shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington. The changes have already choked off many of the United States' remaining legal immigration pathways, but the application pause indicated that the administration is not done. The pause applies to various immigration processes, most consequentially green card applications and U.S. citizenship requests. Immigration lawyers reported cancellation of naturalization ceremonies and interviews for immigration status and said they were left puzzled on Tuesday as immigrants were turned away from interviews for green cards and other forms of relief with no explanation. So far, so good. There's a travel ban on these 19 countries, but there's just one problem. Why these 19 countries? Why? Togo, Turkmenistan, Laos, Myanmar? Who asked for this? So here's my issue. People are going to look at the rant and they're going to look at the travel ban and they're going to say, wow, mission accomplished. They're going to say, wow, Trump is really making a pivot. He's really doing the right thing. And I want to say, so you're glad that Trump shut down immigration from all 19 of the third world countries? We saved America. We have suspended immigration from all 19 of the third world countries. There's obviously far more than just 19 third world countries. There's many, many third world countries. And by the way, the countries that send us the most immigrants, not one of them is on this list. Not one of them. Number 1 is Mexico, not on the list. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, it's India, China, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, the Philippines, Venezuela. This is where the immigrants are coming from. And out of those countries that are providing by far and away the most illegal immigrants, the most border crossers and asylum seekers, only one of them is on the list, and that's Venezuela. That's it. Not Mexico, not India, not China. Is that not the third world? Not the Philippines, not Vietnam, not Malaysia, not Indonesia, not most of Africa for that matter, not most of Central and South America. Is that not the third world too? It's not even most of the Middle East. It's a handful of countries. Yemen, Afghanistan, Iran, end of list. Sudan, arguably, end of list. That's it. And so you want to say, what is really going on here? Because what Trump said on Thanksgiving is there would be a total and permanent pause on third world migration. Then he goes out and says, we don't want these people here. We're going to get them out. So then what is this? Travel ban. We're doing this again? I'm old enough to remember the first travel ban concerning 7 countries and then 6. Back in 2017, they said it was a Muslim ban. We're going to ban Muslims from coming here. Remember that? And then it became a 6-country travel ban. Same thing here. We're going to pause all third world immigration, except for from India, China, the Philippines, Mexico, the Northern Triangle, Southern America, or South America. It's just this handful of countries. Half of them don't even give us any immigrants at all. Equatorial Guinea, Togo, Republic of Congo. How many immigrants do they give us? It's not substantial. What about Nigeria? What, we're going to keep taking them from Nigeria? That's not third world. What about Mexico? The Philippines? That's not third world. Pakistan? And yet none of these countries are on the list. And so you see these gestures. You see these speeches, rants, gestures. It seems that that's all this administration can offer. And it gets back to the fundamental point. Why is Trump doing this? Because we don't support him anymore. So what does he do? He panders. But pandering isn't enough either. It's not enough to say we're going to do a third world migration pause. You need to do one. And it's not enough to say we're going to put 19 countries on a travel ban list. There's more than 19 third world countries. It's not good enough. And by the way, we've only had 60 million third world immigrants in 30 years. It's also not good enough to simply stop them from coming here. We need to actually remove them. And so I said this last night and on Alex Jones today, I am waiting for when they're actually serious about removing all the Somalians. Because I think we are all confident. I think on some level, in our heart of hearts, we all know that in 4 years, Springfield, Ohio will still be filled with Haitians. Dearborn, Michigan will still be filled with Arabs. Minneapolis, Minnesota will still be filled with Somalians. And so on and so forth. These major cities will all have Venezuelans in them. They'll all have these large immigrant populations. Nothing is going to change, actually. And this is my issue. This is why I view Trump in some ways as an obstacle. It's because he is there to basically suck all the energy out of the room. And so maybe there would be a mandate, maybe there would be energy that could go behind somebody that would say, we're going to round everybody up and ship them home. But what we're getting instead is somebody that's purely saying that, but with no intention of doing it. And if you criticize that person, you get ostracized. Hang on, I got a hair on my tongue. So there's that as well. But if you criticize the president while he's doing this, then you get ostracized from the movement. Think about how this works. Trump campaigns on mass deportations. Trump campaigns gesturing, signaling towards immigration moratorium. He gets elected. What does he do? He hosts Netanyahu 5 times. He bombs Iran, bombs Somalia 100 times, bombs Venezuela. That's what he does. If you go out there and say, I don't support Trump because I didn't vote for this, Mark Levin and Laura Loomer circle the wagons. And they circle Trump and they say, oh, if you're criticizing Trump, you're not MAGA. And then Trump makes these gestures. I'm going to do a travel ban. I've got another cute rant. And people like myself say, well, that's not good enough. And you get people saying, you're not MAGA. You're making perfect the enemy of the good. People say, well, you got to give him slack. I don't have to give him slack. I don't have to give him anything. Are we going to pause all the third world migration or are we not? Because you either do it or you don't. But these half travel bans, this is nothing. They say they're going to send ICE into Minneapolis. I'm not going to hold my breath. How many people are they planning on deporting? 50,000? We need to deport a lot in many cities. We need the National Guard everywhere. We need Border Patrol and CBP everywhere. We need to deport millions of illegal immigrants before this is over. And that isn't happening. And so this is a story I see over and over again, which is Trump is going to go on Truth Social or on Twitter. He's going to come up with a policy like this. And you'd think that people have learned by now. You'd think that people have gotten wise to what's happening, but they're right back on the plantation. And they're right back to talking about how, oh, this is really great stuff. I support Trump. My MAGA hat is back on. And you got to say, why? What has he really done? What's actually changed here? Seriously. And this is what's frustrating. You get to a point, it gets to a point where people are ready to oppose the administration. People are ready to do a protest vote. People are angry. The approval rating's down. And maybe some change is possible. But Trump deftly knows how to manipulate his audience. As he's losing support, he's going to come out with a statement and he's going to get everybody back on side. And then rinse and repeat. The cycle repeats all over again on a 6-month timeline, 9-month timeline. And we're back where we started a year from now, 2 years from now. And I hope I'm wrong. Maybe in 4 years they're going to do it and I'll change my mind and I'll say, you know what? Trump really locked in. He deported millions and it was epic. But I don't think that is what's going to happen. I think Trump is deeply unpopular because he's not delivering. He's going to make a gesture and then he will continue not delivering. And we're going to be mad again. And then he's going to give another speech and then we're going to get mad again. And then he's going to deliver another speech. And that's how I've watched this collapse for 10 years. For 10 years, I've watched this game. In 16 and then in 18 and now and in 2025 or 24 and 25, it's the same story. So here's my prescription. Don't put 19 countries on the travel ban list. Put every country on the... What country do we still need immigrants from? Is there even one? And Trump said it himself. The foreign-born population has never been greater. We've got 50 million foreign-born people here. And you think we need more? We need them from India and China? I mean, so either do it or don't do it. You're either going to do a third world immigration pause or you're not. But that's not what this is. And look at what's going to happen. They're going to come out and say, look, we're not going to take immigrants from Togo and Congo and Equatorial Guinea, but we definitely still need 600,000 Chinese students. We definitely need 120,000 H-1B visa Indians. We definitely need all these illegal Hispanics working on farms and in construction because we don't want inflation to go out of control. So if that's the case, then what did we really achieve? And by the way, in a year, 2 years' time, like I said, Springfield still conquered by Haitians, Minneapolis still conquered by Somalians. And what did we do other than waste 4 years? So it's a good start. And people, this is how they get you. People say, you're counter-signaling the moratorium. No, I just wish it were real. If this were real, I would support it, but it's not. They pulled 19 countries out of a hat. They don't even send significant numbers of immigrants. And then they said, we're not going to naturalize your people or give them a visa. Okay. So what's the play then with Somalia? Because unless you're talking about removing all the Somalians from Minnesota, I mean, what are we even talking about then? So I'm not as optimistic as other people. I find it to be incredibly disappointing. Disappointing, but not surprising. This is just what we get from this administration. It's just slop. And I hope you recognize that you're being manipulated. I hope you recognize that that's what this is. This is, by definition, it's chum in the water. Trump knows people are unhappy, so he's throwing bait in the water so the fish will swim up to the surface. It's that simple. And it is literally calibrated. It is designed. It's like laser etched so that you hear this stuff and go, MAGA hat back on. I support the movement again. And you shouldn't, because nothing changed fundamentally. And nothing's going to change anytime soon. When things change, that is when you support. When you see the tangible, real victories and policies and support, that's when I'm okay with getting back on board. If Trump did it, if we see 1 million illegals deported next year, I'm on board. If Trump actually restrains Israel and there's no war in Iran, I'm actually going to support. But I'm not going to start supporting because of a tweet. I'm not going to start supporting because of a go-off moment in a cabinet meeting. It's not enough. So it's very transparent what they're trying to play here. But we're going to move on. It's going to be a shorter show tonight. I'm a little bit tired. I've been doing a lot of these collaborations. I already did 2 hours this afternoon, and we got about 100 super chats. So it's going to be a little bit, I know it's a little bit of a shorter show. It's a slower day. And I'm already a little bit gassed. So we're going to move on. We're going to take a look. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this.
Man, if y'all only knew. First and foremost, I just recorded an entire response to this, downloaded it, and of course the audio. I must have pressed mute, but it is what it is. It is what it is. We're getting right to it. And I'm calling BS on Trump, and I'm calling BS on Nick. That's right. I'm calling BS on both Nick and Trump. And for a lot of the reasons that Nick actually brought up when it comes to Trump, you know, this whole like Trump going on, first off, he's sleeping in the meeting, and then it's like he woke up and like was frustrated. So he just started lashing out. Like, you know how a grandparent, like you wake up a grandparent from a nap or something, waking up pop from a nap, and you just start waking up lashing out on everybody. That's what it seemed like. And it was just so unnecessary. And I believe it was exactly what Nick said it was, but I know we just look at it in a different way. Now, what do I mean by that? Trump is doing exactly what Nick said. He realizes that his favorability rating is low. He realizes that he's not accomplishing the things that he set out to accomplish. He can try to, you know, embrace his own delusion as much as he wants and say that people are turning their back on him, whatever else people he's saying and people that support him are saying, mainly the Mark Levins, the Randy Fines, the Ben Shapiros of the world that really just rocking with him because he's doing any and everything for Israel. But Trump knows that he's turning off a whole bunch of people that were rocking with him passionately, whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, whether it's Candace Owens, whether it's a lot of others, Theo Vons and various others. He knows. That's one thing that Trump has always been good at, gauging the temperature of his people. So when Trump lashes out about, you know, Somalis, and I'm not sure the proper term Somalis or Somalians. I've looked up and it says that, all right, it says that it's both Somali and Somalian. So hopefully I'm not offending anybody here like Trump. But no, when you say, when you identify an entire group of people and say that they're either garbage or their country's garbage, I should say, because I don't think he said they're garbage, but I'm sure y'all let me know if he did. But I'll err on the side of him not saying that. But when you say that an entire country's garbage and all the people that come from this country, that all they do is complain and moan and whatever other words that he was using, and he says that, frankly, I don't want them there. I don't even want them here in America. I don't want them here. They come here. They don't bring anything to the country. And it's like, damn, you're going to categorize an entire group of people like that? You're going to categorize an entire group of people like that. If that's not racist, then what is? And I know we all have different definitions of racism, and y'all know I'm not the whole race baiting victimhood person. I'm not that. But the reason why I do bring it up is because that energy seems to only be extended to Black and brown people, when you can just categorize an entire group and stand on it in ways that both Trump and I believe Nick does. And the reason why Nick perhaps can point out Trump doing it, perhaps he does some of the same things. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. I've seen Nick plenty of times talk about how, on one end, well, he'll say the same, it'll be on the same show and he can go from one to another, but especially there's times where he's pushing for a more united front, when he's appreciating certain people, let's say Black people that call out other Black people, and he'll let it be known like, hey, this is not, anybody who's on board with putting America first, I'm willing to work with them. Like, that's who's on the team. But then in the next instance, he'll say, no, I'm here to bring about white Christian European values. And it can be a bit contradicting to some, perhaps not to y'all, perhaps not to some, whatever, doesn't even matter. But what I notice is that, and y'all tell me if y'all notice it, this is just my opinion of it. Whenever Nick seems to give that energy, I'm sure there's a lot of people in his base that have been rocking with him since the time, let's say he was 18, 19, 20 years old doing this show, when maybe the rhetoric that he was using was even more extreme. The people that were just following him because they're like, yo, this white boy will just say the N-word. Like, yeah, I'm rocking with that. Yeah, getting behind him in that regard. He's always, all of us, we're all human. When we feel like we're not like appealing to the group of people that's been rocking with us since our foundation, it bothers us. We see this all the time, at least in the Black community. You see this all the time where, people, they feel like they got to go back to the hood for no reason, dumb reasons, if any. And they end up getting in trouble because they feel like, yo, it's keeping it real. I gotta go back to the hood because that's where I come from. And no, you don't. If it's not good for you, if it's not positive, if you elevated beyond that to the point where now you've become a target, you don't need to go back there. But that's a different story. The point that I'm trying to make is that people will always try to appeal and feel a certain type of way if they feel like they're turning their back, or if they're getting called out for turning their back and leaning more in a way where it's leaning away from, or at least gives off the perception to a lot of your base that you're leaning away from them. And now you're opening up what used to be something so exclusive. Now you're opening it up for everybody. They feel some type of way. This is no different than Trump. Trump knows that, like I said, his favorability rating is low. Nick sometimes knows that I'm going in this direction. And he said it. He said, I'm getting called out for, certain things. We know exactly what it is. And what do? You drop the N-word. You go on all these rants. You put out the Wang half shirt and all that other stuff. Now, once again, I'm not the whole race baiter. Y'all see me. I do these reviews of every single one of Nick's shows. I don't get all emotionally triggered by it. Half the time, I just feel like, bro, people that do this, like y'all not even real racist. Y'all not real racist. Y'all just trying to appeal. You're just marketing. Just the same way that these politicians will use certain rhetoric to appeal to their base. It's no different than Trump. Perhaps Nick doing it sometimes. I'm sure some of y'all will disagree, but this is what I'm seeing. So this is my part where I get to talk mine. So I'm going to give y'all my direct and honest thoughts. So let me actually take the conversation to the notes, because I don't want to be all over the place. We had some notes and I want to go through it. And Nick, first off, he started off talking about Elon. And matter of fact, before I get into that, let me finish the point that I was making with this. The issue that I have with Trump and Nick is that the same issue that I have with Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh will call out Somalians or Somalis. He'll call out Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan. He'll call out whatever else, when it comes to Black and brown people who are apparently destroying America. But he'll never call out Jewish people. He'll never call out the Israel influence, the Zionist influence, the Miriam Adelson. He will never touch that. He will be super direct. Like when it comes to talking about those issues, he'll say, yeah, I'm just all about America first. But when you talk about the black and brown people, you're actually calling out the black and brown people. And I'm just wondering, why is that energy different than when it comes to Jewish people? So when it comes to Nick, and I know that Nick is aware of it because he said it before, he actually just said it in Alex Jones's interview, where there's a clip of him talking about Muslims. And he's saying that, yeah, this whole Muslim fear mongering that a lot of conservatives are given, it's all just intended to be a distraction and distract people from us looking at what we're putting our money to when it comes to Israel, the genocide, and us backing that and us calling that out. They almost feel like, well, if we just villainize Muslims, then maybe they'll be okay with us committing a genocide against Arab Muslims, the Palestinians. So my question to that is, and Nick actually mentioned this when he talked about Tucker and how Tucker recently did the interview with Piers Morgan, where Tucker was going viral for using the FAGGOT word. And he was using the RETARD, I don't even know if I'm spelling it right. It is what it is. Maybe y'all gonna put me in that category. I don't care. But the point that I'm trying to make is he was calling out Tucker for saying that, which is basically saying like, yo, you're saying something mid. It's not like you're based because you are willing to say those two words. If you really want to take a stand for free speech and censorship, because he's talking to Pierce, because Pierce, where Pierce is living, what is Pierce in the UK? Apparently you'll get arrested for using some of these words. So he was telling Tucker, why don't you really take it to the point where, you know, people will have some respect for you standing on business? Well, it'll actually be you standing against something, taking a stance for free speech and going against censorship. I guess I would say the same thing back to Trump and Nick. Where's your energy? Why you got a Wang half shirt? Nick, you've said, well, let me not say what you've said. Let me ask you a question. And I'll ask everybody else as well, people that watch Nick. You got to be a fan of Nick if you staying to this point to watch. I'm assuming, and maybe I may have a couple people that I've grown on as well. So when it comes to that, are Black people preventing you from living your American dream? All the things that you complain about, Nick, are Black people preventing you from that? From America being put first, from stopping the H-1B visas with the Indians, from not allowing the Chinese to come here and go to school? Are Black people frontlining those fights? Your number one complaint when it comes to the Trump administration, just like a whole bunch of other people, that he's getting bullied and used and controlled and manipulated by Israel, right? Bibi Netanyahu's bullying them all over, making them look like a fool, making people not only lose respect for Trump, but lose respect for America, because we're putting out ceasefires that Trump's bragging about. And before he wakes up the next morning, what happens? Bibi Netanyahu already firing off missions, like pretty much letting y'all know, like, bro, ain't nobody, y'all don't run this. Y'all must be confused. Like we let it be known to the rest of the world and act as if America really runs stuff. You know, you're a bigger country, you're doing all this, but don't get it twisted. Our chosen few, we control that. And that is exactly why we treat this over here, Israel, better. Because it's worth more to us. So we know exactly what's going on. Trump is not getting bullied by Black people. Nick Fuentes, your complaints are not about Black people. Your complaints in Chicago and cultural issues are about Black people. And I'll call those out. I've called them out well before I heard of Nick Fuentes, and I'll call them out until the issues are addressed. But when it comes to the country, on the macro level, Black people are not preventing white people from doing anything in this country. Matter of fact, Black people are at the bottom. Look at our annual household income. We are at the bottom when it comes to this. We're getting used and manipulated and used like pawns more than anybody. More than anybody. But there's a group of people out there, Nick. You talk about them all the time. Matter of fact, you rightfully so acknowledge the fact that you're one of the only people that's willing to actually discuss it in the way that you discuss it, where you're not just saying Israel, where you're not just saying Zionism that you have a problem with, like a Tucker or a Candace or a whole bunch of other people. You'll actually say, nah, I got a problem with the Jewish culture and how Jewish Americans are influencing our government and how Jewish people in Israel are influencing our government in ways that manipulate our politicians. They're buying off our politicians. So where our politicians, instead of prioritizing America and doing what's best for the American people, They're compromising their principles. They're compromising their principles to do for Israel, the people that are paying them, the people that are paying their campaigns, whether it's AIPAC or other organizations. We all know what's going on. It's not hard for any of us to see. But if that's the case, why punch down on Black people? Why? You ever wonder why your audience gets so excited about you saying the N-word? White people have been saying the N-word for hundreds of years. Like, that ain't nothing new. It is what it is. Y'all been saying it. Y'all gonna keep saying it. What's the issue? But one thing that y'all don't address, one thing that very rarely, I can't think of a time that I've heard Nick Fuentes or Donald Trump use any derogatory slur against Jewish people. Now, I'm not calling out for it to be used, but I'm just calling out the irony, perhaps the hypocritical behavior and the contradiction that I see when it comes to being so willing to call out Black people and being so willing to offend Black people and to push for free speech and fight against censorship at the expense of offending Black people. Cool. But where's that energy? If you really want to take a stand, Nick, just like you were telling Tucker, if you really want to take a stand, then instead of a wing half shirt, then why not put a Jewish slur on there? You're Nick Fuentes, bro. Come on now, they can't cancel you. Or has it been Black people trying to cancel Nick since he was 18, or has it been a different group of people? So why is he fighting for free speech and fighting against censorship against the people that are not even censoring him? Nick, you know how this is used. You know how we're actually pitted against each other when it comes to Black and white people by elites to get us fighting each other. Meanwhile, while other groups are benefiting from the policies that are put in play, they're benefiting from all these different things while Black and white people just fight about the simplest things. This has been going on for a very long time. What does Ben Shapiro always try to remind us, or Mark Levin? They'll jump out the window saying, Nick Fuentes is a racist. He's a misogynist. He's an anti-Semite. They'll throw anti-Semite in there either in the middle or at the end. But then when they say he says this, he says the N-word. I don't ever hear them or see any clips of him saying anything like a derogatory slur against Jewish people. Even the first thing that got him canceled, he was talking about Black people. He was talking about Black people and how a woman, is it the same thing? I don't even want to reiterate it. Y'all know what he said when he first got canceled at 18, when they secretly recorded him. They tried to use that to cancel him. Do y'all think, maybe y'all do think Black people are really that stupid and simple, and perhaps we're not doing ourselves any favors in disproving that. But do y'all really think that we are that stupid to think that Nick Fuentes was getting canceled because he said the N-word or he said something mean about Black people? Like, knock it off. The fact that he was willing to say that about Black people, and he also discusses and calls out a lot of Jewish people in Israel, that's what got y'all upset. That's why you want to cancel him. What else could he say about Black people? We already heard. Like, what else is he going to say? What else? Think about it. What else could he say about Black people? He called us the N-word. What is he going to say? Oh, they don't take care of their kids. Okay, we already heard that. What else? What else could you say about Black people? So really, you've already used that tactic, that strategy. You got to move on to something else, bro. You got to let them know you're serious. Don't just punch down on Black people. Why not punch on the people that are actually punching at you? Why not defend yourself and use your fight against the people that are fighting you to take a stand for free speech against censorship? That's my only question. Where's that same energy, Nick? Am I being unfair by asking that? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. So let me get back to the notes. My fault. I know I veered off a bit, and I won't take too long. I won't keep y'all too much longer, but I just wanted to touch on a few different things. So Nick said that, Nick was referencing the tweet that Elon put out saying that Jews are not only whites, but they're peak whites. And I was having a conversation, and the person I was talking to, they were saying like, oh, Elon must be trying to get back in the good graces of Jewish people. And I had actually a different reaction to it when I first was looking at it. It's not that I didn't think that he was trying to do that. I didn't even think about that. But I did think that at that time, Jewish people aren't going to like this. Because to me, now maybe just me, because I'm having a lot of these conversations, and what it always goes back to me is that claim of that land. So, and being from there, right? That's what this entire altercation is about. 3,000 years ago, it says it in the Bible, God promised us this land. Okay, cool. So it was y'all, like the Europeans, the ones that came from Europe. That's who he's talking about? Or was he talking about the people that live in the region? The ones whose DNA is closer to the Palestinians, the Semites, right? That's okay, cool, whatever. It seems like this identity theft issue has come up time after time, especially when it comes to religion and people trying to leverage other religions and leverage God in different ways to, oh yeah, I'm that, I'm identifying as that. Okay, cool. But you don't, like, none of us really actually believe that. Like, do people really, is that a thing? Do y'all really think that the people who are living in Israel, those are the people that are from there? I'm just wondering. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I thought it was like an obvious thing. But then when you think about it, they've whitewashed everything else when it comes to, you ever see these Egyptian movies growing up? And I'm like, yo, who are these? These are white people. Or Easter Sunday, the 10 Commandments comes on, and I'm like, oh yeah, like this is what I grew up. Grandma had it on. At my black grandma's house, we're watching the 10 Commandments, all my cousins, my uncles, my parents, my aunts, grandparents, right? And I see all the white people in that area. So clearly, yeah, it must be Jewish people that. Next thing you know, we'll be arguing about what color Santa Claus is, right? I guess in a few weeks we'll be arguing that. But it's just imagery is something. Let me not get on that. Let's get back to Elon's. So when Elon initially put that up, I saw it as something where I didn't think that Jewish people would like it, because to me, all it did was highlight that, yeah, they're actually European. Jewish people are European. The ones right now that are did I say occupying Israel? The ones that are in Israel. Yeah. But the fact that he said they're peak whites, I thought that was funny. I thought that was very funny. I'm not sure. Well, y'all tell me. Shoot. I'm just a bystander. I'm just looking from the outside in. How did y'all feel about that? Y'all the peak white folk. And then Nick talked about Asians don't consider themselves white. I thought that was funny because I know that Asians, obviously, there's a lot of groups that fall into that category. But when it comes to, I don't know whether it was Chinese or Korean, or I forget which exact ethnic group that it was, demographic, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of them identify as white. And it's kind of funny, the fact that you got Asians identifying as white, but Jewish people not identifying as white. But it does go to Nick's point, where he mentioned in the video, which is people identify with whatever they need to identify at that particular time that suits the interest that they are trying to pursue. That's it. People, oh yeah, well, what are we today? It's almost like a playbook. You don't run the same defense against every team. You know, coach, we got? We're gonna focus more on running cover 2. We got a lot of speed. They don't have a strong run game, so we're gonna focus more on cover 2. Or hey, we're gonna stack up the box, have an extra person in the box. We got a big ground game coming in. Like, I don't know if y'all understand football rhetoric, but what my point is that you don't play every team the same way. So therefore, that is how it seems as if the approach has been for a lot of people when they're choosing what to identify as, whether it's a college application that they're filling out or it's something else on a bigger level. That just seems to be what people do. And that's not just specialized to any group of people, I don't think. I'm thinking in my mind. I think that a lot of people do that. Yeah, a lot of different groups. All right, let's keep moving. Oh yeah, and by the way, like, yeah, just sticking to this point. I don't even need to say that. It's kind of hurting more. If I was gonna say, if I could wake up tomorrow and identify as white, I mean, in this country, I guess it'd be easier to identify as a woman. But let me leave it there. All right, so let's move on to the conversation that I guess we'll pick back up on Trump going off on the Somalians. Nick said that he likes it, and I see a bunch of people do this. It's with the clickbaiting culture, and like I said, I don't think Nick does it as much as a lot of other people, but I think that Nick just feels Nick is in a different way where Nick just, I'm sure he feels at certain times or where he may get frustrated to where he's like, you know what, man. And when his frustration maybe happens, and maybe I'm giving him too much grace, but yeah, he just does it. He does it. We see it. A lot of people, they'll try to appeal to their base and they end up choosing a group to rally behind. It's like, oh, Trump's not doing well, so let's get up and say something racist. Let's lash out at the end of this meeting that I was sleeping in. Let me wake up like the grumpy old man that I am and just lash out for no reason, but just categorize an entire group of people as such. And the country is going to get behind it. I don't know whether that says more about Trump, whether it says more about his followers, or whether it says more about the country in general. But this is where we are with it. Let me. I may be finishing up here. Okay, so the last point that I want to make, I didn't realize that I covered everything. It's my second time recording, so I guess I should know what I'm talking about. But I think there's an opportunity now. There's an opportunity for countries to bring in Americans. Like, let's be real. Americans, we set the tone on all this. We set the tone on what's cool, what people are doing at the time, what's in, whether it comes to fashion, music, politics, across the board. Everybody wants to know what America got going on. Now, I'm not always saying that we're always winning, but we're always the ones with the spotlight on us. All right. So when it comes to that, I think there's an opportunity for a lot of other countries to bring Americans to their country. With all this stuff complaining that everybody seems to be doing on all sides, complaining about America, perhaps we should do what a lot of these other countries do by creating competitors for Americans, right? When you're bringing in people with H-1B visas, where do you ultimately think that's going to end up? You're supposed to be putting America first. So Trump does his interview, saying that America doesn't have the talent. And excuse me if I already said all this, because like I said, it was my second video, but I don't think I mentioned this part. But Trump's doing the interview saying that America doesn't have talent. That's why he has to bring people in on H-1B visas, even though in a previous interview when Trump was referencing as a business person, he's used it, but doesn't think that America should be doing it. That's what he's pushing for. And then the same guy in the same interview that's talking about how we need Chinese citizens or Chinese students to come over here, or else our colleges are going to go bankrupt. So what? Like Nick said, so what? So it's okay it's not okay for the colleges to have to compete and figure it out, but it's okay for us to bring in now these talented people who are they're already more talented and we're giving them opportunities. Now we have our young Americans and perhaps our older Americans as well that have to compete against them. Who is Trump really rocking with? Trump, I thought you were for the people. Are you for the people or are you for the corporations? Are you for the people or are you for Silicon Valley? Are you for the people or are you for Israel and Big Pharma and whoever else you seem to be making all these plays for and following through with these, I guess, secret plans or promises that you made to them to get whatever in return you got from Miriam Adelson or whoever else was throwing money your way. But let me get back to the point. Whether it's some of these Asian countries, whether it's some of the African countries, whether it's South America, I don't know where it's going to be. Maybe it's some of the European countries. I don't know where it's going to be. Maybe it's Dubai, where they're incentivizing Americans to come there. Maybe this is an opportunity to, I don't know. It seems like Trump seems to be rewarding everybody else with dual citizenship. Now, I don't know if that's just the case only if you have dual citizenship to Israel, but maybe we should start exploring some of those options, and maybe that other countries should take advantage and follow America's blueprint and bring some Americans on board. Bring some Americans on board. Maybe they'll even pay a little bit extra because they know that we are going to be the ones that set the culture, that make it hot, that make other people around the world want to come to that particular location. So I'll just leave it there. What's my mom texting me? I'll just leave it there. And as always, I appreciate y'all. And my apologies for getting this video out so late. We were traveling today, so when we travel, sometimes it just no excuses, but I'm just being real with y'all. That's just sometimes I don't get it out as early. And then I do have the excuse. I had to record this twice. I actually had to record my part twice because I had to mute, and then I had to record the video twice because I was trying to record it in the car on the way to the airport. But neither here nor there. Y'all know what it is. Appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Let's control the algorithm, not let the algorithm control us. And of course, y'all know I come in with my biases. So I'm not always as objective as I'd like to be, but that's why I rely on y'all to give me always the feedback where I may be having some blind spots. So like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know how we're doing, and I'll see y'all on the next video.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family. And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that. I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.